Alright guys, so today we are going to do a review of the Kubota RTV X1140. It's a number of you guys had made a request that we do a 1-year review, and so that's what we're going to do today. Alright, because I come from the intelligence world, we'll just sort of take that approach, which is put the bottom line up front. Alright, so in summation, I find the greatest value of this piece of equipment is as hauling in a commercial or a farm and ranch application. The best things about the RTV, the engine torque and the fact that the engine uses very little diesel. I mean, it sips diesel, are two great features of the engine. And similarly, the bed, the configuration, being able to go from a 4-seater with a smaller bed to a 2-seater with a double-sized bed is fantastic. Likewise, to have that hydraulic bed to be able to drop it down is also exceptional. So those are the two best features about it. The two worst features about the RTV is noise. Both engine noise from the diesel is quite loud, but worse than that is the exhaust. The exhaust system is probably the poorest design I've ever experienced of any vehicle of any type that I've ever had. That's saying something. It's really bad. It rattles absolutely unmercifully, and it literally becomes part of your day. The second really poorly designed thing with the RTV, and it's not actually just with the RTV. I have a Grand L 3560 tractor, and it has the exact same issue, and that is the gearbox. I mean, I get unsynchronized gearboxes, but the Model T had a better unsynchronized gearbox than this thing has. It is almost impossible to change from neutral to low to medium to high in the 3560, and in this to go from reverse to neutral to high to low. Almost impossible. It is just a constant fight. You can't do it without taking the Lord's name in vain, and then you have that issue you're going to have to contend with. So what I've found is that going from either high or reverse directly into neutral, if you depress the brake pedal, that seems to be the best method. But I need to tell you something. Okay, when I say depress the brake pedal, I'm not talking about pressing the brake pedal as though you're slowing the vehicle down. I'm talking about taking every ounce of energy and strength that you can muster to shove that pedal is absolutely as close to the floorboard as you can possibly get it, and possibly through the floorboard. It is that bad. And yes, I've adjusted the brake pedal. You can feel it when it finally kicks free, but Elle can't do it. She can't push it down hard enough to get that thing to disengage. But that is what I've found to be most effective for me, to go from either of those drive positions into neutral. To go from neutral into a drive position, or to go from high to low, I found that you pretty much have to burp the engine, right? So you just burp on the throttle, and then that works the best. But none of them are good. It will take it's a part of your life. It literally is part of your existence. It's so bad. So the gearbox and the exhaust are the two downsides. All right, so then now what we will do is we will do what we do, which is to go through front to back, top to bottom, every aspect of the vehicle, and give you a good thorough review for anybody considering this particular piece of equipment. All right, guys, I'll try to be efficient here. So in the review of the Kubota RTV X1140, like I said, we'll just start from the front, go to the back, and cover all the different attributes here. Okay, so first thing, the brush guard. The brush guard's fantastic because we have a lot of young sumac saplings that just come up very quickly here, and it's nice just to be able to move through the fields and stuff and just, you know, sort of push them down. And of course, there's a skid plate associated with it underneath, so that's really nice, good feature. The hitch, 2-inch hitch, on the other hand, is the opposite story. I don't know what designed it, but it's a mess. It's the female sleeve on it is too short for you to insert, for example, the winch onto it. If you push the winch hits the brush guard before the two holes line up so that you can put the pin through it. That's the same thing even with the extender. The back of the extension, hitch extension, hits the back of the female sleeve before the holes line up. So I don't know. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's completely, you know, it makes absolutely no sense, the design of that. But so the front hitch, not so great. All right. So you can see, just as we're looking still underneath the brush guard there, that there are little shields there to protect the steering assembly. So that's nice, you know, because if you are pushing through brush, that you don't have branches coming up and smacking that. So that's nice. All right, and then up to the headlights. The headlights are fine. They're halogen lights. They basically just have a low beam, but you know, they're wide enough and they seem to be bright enough. So they're good for an application. You can, on the roof, you could have additional external lights if you wanted, but they're fine for what they are. I do wish that they had turn signals on them, not necessarily to use on the road, but when you're down on the driveway next to the road, or you know, doing any of the work right along the road, it's just nice to be able to use the hazards, particularly on a narrow, windy holler like we live on. So you know, with my druthers, I'd like to have some turn signals, but be it as it may. Okay, the hood is just made of simple plastic, but it seems to work fine for what it is. This little latch is what opens it. Again, fine, no issues. The cooling system, the radiators are great. They seem to be fine. This is a dust collector, and of course it has a air filter in there. Again, seems to be fine, no problems. I did have one issue with overheating, and I'm not sure. I believe, since I've never been able to replicate it, that it has something to do with the sensor, which may be going bad. It only happened once, but when it happened, of course, the gauge inside the cockpit went through the roof, and an alarm came on and said, you know, overheating. I turned it off. I left it just in the field where it was till the next day. I did just sort of, you know, check around to see if there were any indications of overheating. There weren't. But in the next day, when I came and checked the coolant level and checked, you know, the air filter and checked the oil level, everything seemed to be fine. Everything was up to snuff. And so I don't know what caused that. It was a hot day, but we didn't go that far. I think we took one lap around the property, and I mean, I do that every night. It's no big deal, but for some reason I did have that one instance. So just so that you know. Okay, this is brake fluid. It's the braking is great. I mean, no issues. The only issue we have, of course, is the HST, hydrostatic transmission disconnect that's attached to the brake, but of course that's not the braking system. All right, so that seems to be good. There you are underneath the hood. There's a horn. Horn's great. It's convenient to have. Basically, all I do is use it to get the attention of a person or of the dogs. You know, it's not like the horn is really that much of a utility. Okay, moving up from that, the windscreen. The windscreen was actually an aftermarket. It doesn't come on the base model of the X1140. and it's fine. It's made of like a polycarbonate or a plastic. It does scratch pretty easily when you're going through the branches and everything. So, you know, you aren't going to keep it looking pristine, but it's fine. It does what it needs to do on the rainy day or whatever to, you know, to keep you dry. I must admit that the aerodynamics of it remind me of the Harley windscreen. And when I did research on the Harley windscreen, the testing came back and said it's less aerodynamic than pushing a piece of plywood through the air. So I dare say this is probably the same. But the speed on this thing is pretty much 17 miles an hour is your top speed. I mean, you can probably push it off a cliff and hit 21 miles an hour, but top speed is about 17. So that's a fairly big negative about the X1140. One of my strongest dislikes. Didn't make my top 2, but it would definitely be number 3 is the speed. It puts everything into torque and into power hauling. It is not for speed. Like I said, 17 miles an hour, pretty much max. All right, the roof assembly is actually a roll guard or a roll cage. It's very heavy if you try to lift it up out of there. Definitely need a person on each corner to lift it. It is very heavy, but you know, it does a great job, particularly with the windscreen, keeping you dry. And I haven't rolled it over, but I'm sure it would be very effective keeping you safe if you actually use the seat belts, which I don't. For me, I just sort of wing it and go by the seat of my pants. It makes the RTV a bit tippier, but I put it on pretty steep ground, and never have I gotten a wheel to raise up off the ground. So it's pretty stable, but it does give you the sensation of being tippy, quite tippy, particularly with that roll cage and all of that steel up above you. Okay. All right, so let's see, maybe we go over to the passenger side. That way the sun stays behind us. I guess to start off with would be the dash. The dash is fine as far as, you know, the levers and knobs. Everything is okay, except for, of course, the transfer case, you know, like I mentioned already. The only thing that I would say that's also very, very, very poorly designed here is the dashboard itself. It's only natural that you are going to place things that you use all the time up on that dash, and there's no place to put it. You can't put a phone up there without it sliding off and getting run over by the RTV. You can't put a little knife up there, gloves up there, whatever it is. As soon as you take a turn, everything slides off. There's no little bin to hold any of your stuff. And if you put them in the glove compartment, first of all, that's inconvenient. You want things like a phone or something you can just grab very easily. And of course, there's other things that are more, you know, longer term that you're going to keep in there, tire gauges and, you know, your, you know, whatever, your sunscreen or whatever. You're going to have things in that. I even keep a squeegee in there because the one thing about the windscreen is we have a lot of heavy dew in the morning, and it's nice just to be able to take the squeegee out and squeegee the two sides real quick before you start out. So anyway, yeah, the simple thing of the dash design is actually really poorly done. In fact, the storage side of this is actually really poorly done. This side holder here, like almost like a map case that you would have, there's only one. There's not one on the driver's side, which is the side that you're obviously getting in and out on all the time. It's over here, and it's just, again, just like basically a bin, and it even has a slit through it. So when you put things in there, like a key or whatever, they slide out, or your eyeglasses or whatever. That little space there, I don't know why it's there, but it's just big enough to allow whatever you have when you hit the brakes to slide out of there and fall underneath and then get run over by the RTV. So there seems to be a theme there about that. As far as that goes, moving on from that, you have the cup holders. Cup holders are fine. They're a little wide, frankly, and so everything sort of rattles around in there. I'm not exactly sure what they're designed for, but they don't have an insert like you might have in like say, for example, my truck has. It has like an insert that makes it smaller for a regular can or something. This is not even for like a 30-ounce. We usually carry 30-ounce Arctic, insulated cups, and they're too small, so they just rattle around all the time. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The glove box, you saw that. That's great, This unit, your little dash, basically simple, right? On the outside, you have turn signals, which of course don't have turn signals. And then your seatbelt, battery. This says braking problems. So that's like an idiot light. This is your high beam, but of course you don't have high beams. This is your glow plug. This is your temp. And there is your parking brake. All right. And then here are your hazard. Here are your hazard lights, which of course we don't have. Then we have fuel idiot light, temperature idiot light. Well, this is actually radiator fluid idiot light, engine oil idiot light. This is a PTO. This is for telling you whether the PTO is operating, and then this is four-wheel drive, showing you four-wheel drive. Then up on the screen itself, you have your fuel gauge, your temperature gauge, your hours or miles, and then your speed. In this one, in miles per hour. Or I think you can click it over to kilometers per hour as well. All right, and yeah, it all seems to work perfectly fine. With your ignition switch, you have basically stop. I think it's accessories. This, you don't really click into it, but you just hold it against it. It feels like a little spring to get the glow plugs to heat up, and when it's particularly cold, and then of course to start. Then you have a little 12-volt port right there, horn, your gearbox, of course steering wheel, and over on the driver's side you have the this knob, which just makes it, so you can adjust the height of the steering wheel. And then you have the parking brake, and then you have the light switch. And these are probably for like your hazards or something like that. But this one, again, just has basically off and on. Okay, looking down below, you have, of course, brake, throttle. This is your four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive transfer case. This is your differential lock, so that you can lock the differentials together. What you do is you depress that, and while that's depressed, you simply lift up on this, and it locks that pedal down, or differential locked in place. This is your hydraulic control for the bed. It moves the bed up and down, and it has like a little gate, safety gate, so that you don't accidentally hit it. Then underneath, of course, you have seat belts. Underneath, you have some storage. For the driver's seat, you have the whole seat moves forward, and you have this small container. These are earplugs, because that's the one thing that this business is very noisy. For the passenger side, you have just the seat folds forward, not the backrest. And again, you have a little bit of storage space under there. It's okay. It's just about enough. But it really would be better if they had, some sort of design here, probably over there on top of the glove box, which would be like a little container, so that you could put things, like whatever. I mean, you're just always storing stuff up on there, and it's constantly falling off. So not a great design. All right, so underneath this panel is your brake adjustment. All right, moving on to the back. Here's your seat design. This also goes up. Gets very dirty under here. Very dirty. The reason is because you're going to see when we get to the bed that one of the shortcomings of this is the design of the bed, about how the two beds come together once you've extended it. So anyway, a lot of things fall through the cracks, literally, and it comes down onto this panel right here, okay? But this just slides forward, and to convert this to the two-seater with the extended bed, you will see that there is a control arm here, and you lift up on it while you're pushing this forward, and then this will simply go forward like this. Of course, I'm doing it with one hand, so. But it's gross motor skills. That same knob or control arm has two sides to it. This, when it's back, connects to here. And now this, when it's forward, connects to the bottom part of the seat. And so you just lift it up, push it forward, sort of click it in. So that is it. Also, you have, of course, your seat belts, battery. Like I said, the electrical seems to be perfectly fine, seems to be in good shape. The battery does have a little indicator there about its charge, and it just shows green when it's okay, or if it shows nothing, then you need to charge it, or if it shows a white, then you need to replace the battery. That there's battery's life is shot. Okay, let me walk around to the other side, because once we go out in the sun, you guys are going to get whited out. All right, to move this cargo bed bottom down into a position so that you extend the bed, you have one of these on each side. They just set into a hole, and you drop it down. Okay, then this can just be moved like that for storage, and then this just comes and sits up. How that stays in place is that these two panels, which were the back of the bed, are now, you see that? That just goes like that and pushes in and then down, and that locks these two pieces together. None of this is really refined, but it's utilitarian. And then, of course, you're going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, so a shortcoming of this design is right here. And I'm not sure how you would fix it, to tell you the truth. So, I don't be too critical about it. You can see that there is a little, there's a gap on the top, but underneath, they tried to manage it by having a little extension of this piece so that stuff doesn't drop down there. The problem is that it does drop down there, particularly when you put it in the other configuration, two-bed configuration, because as you saw this, as it was sitting up, that is open and it just drops, stuff just drops in between. And so every time you go to change from this configuration of 4 to 2, there's twigs and all sorts of stuff that are stuck in there, and it doesn't want to let you lift it up. So you have to kind of clean it out each time. Just not a great design, not a great design. Everything is coated in a liner, which is nice. As you can see, the liner takes a beating, and it'll just sort of start to peel off. So durability isn't great. Same thing, just comes in, find the hole, and then it just slides in like that and locks in. All right. And you have a little cage up there, I guess, I don't know, to stop anything that happened to be that height from passing through into the people's compartment. Okay. Now, another feature which is less than ideal are the latches for the back of the bed, and everybody mentions the same thing. Instead of having a central latch So when your hands are filled, you can just grab a hold of it. You have to use both hands in order to do this. I had tried to use a string or a strap that went across between the two that you could just pull on and it would move the two together. It sort of kind of worked, but it didn't survive. And the reason is because it would slip off. And then when these came in, it would slip off, and then you were just constantly trying to redo it. So yeah, it's not great. Some of the others, like the Honda Pioneer or something, I don't know if they use the same system, but that is what it is. Okay, so the back here. Again, suspension is really good. You do have the backlights. You don't have a backup light. So I put this light on with a switch that is up on the dash in order to be able to manually turn on a light back here so that you can back up. You really do need a backup light because you're working all the way till dusk, and you're just as you're moving inside of the woods or whatever. It's good to be able to see behind you, So a lot of times you'll be pushing on the brake while pushing on the exhaust. While pushing on the accelerator, simply to give you some light so that you can see what you're backing up to. So that would be something that I would, I did change, right? All right, so the power plant, again, is really good. I haven't used this PTO yet. I just haven't. We invested in a tractor, so I don't have any of the accessories that would require the PTO, but it's nice that it's there. This is the said exhaust system, which is so appallingly bad. No matter what you do, you can't tighten it up. And so you can see what I've done, which is to take a stick and shove it in there to basically apply pressure to it so that it will not rattle so badly. I don't know what other folks have done. I've also taken before, I had wire that tied it off. I can't remember exactly where I tied it off to, but to put pressure on it. Oh, maybe this is it right here. Anyway, to put pressure on it to get it to stop from rattling. But it moved so much that it cut through the wire that I was using. All right. Let's see here. This is this, so you can see I'm using an extender on this hitch, also a 2-inch hitch, because it's set so deeply that you have to use an extender. So you have good, mud guards. You have a good skid plate underneath to protect the body or the bottom of the RTV. Of course, here's your fuel filler cap, which of course obviously is diesel. All right, and so we'll just look under the RTV real quick. And you can see this skid plate that goes the length of it. You can't see, oh, here it is. Then underneath, right underneath the filler cap, you have a water separator and fuel filter, which sits right there, which those of you who were on my channel earlier will remember that I had to basically clean the entire fuel system and heads from water and sediment in the system within the first, I would say, 30 minutes of my ownership of this piece of equipment. That is it. The mirrors, I put those on as aftermarket. They're great. They fold in and out, and of course, obviously, adjustable. But it's nice that they fold in and out because when you do bang against stuff, they just sort of collapse in. All right, guys. Well, till we see you again, we're out.